No mai Huddy mai. Find Huddy Sports on Instagram and Facebook. huddysports.co.nz. Now let's kōrero.
Kia ora, good evening and welcome to the Huddy Hui episode 172. It's good to be back with you all again this week, and we start off the show tonight with some rather sad news for one of Wellington's long-serving rugby players. He passed away at the age of 95, as announced by the Centurions Rugby Club today. Mick Bremner, All Black number 545, has died peacefully at Village of the Park in Wellington. Of course, he played there a number of times for Wellington over the years, representing Wellington Athletic Park. And I was lucky enough, alongside WRFU Vice President Richard Bogue, to meet Mick Bremner at Village at the Park back in the July school holidays, and got to sit down and interview him and record his stories about playing rugby, not only for Wellington and Canterbury, but also for the All Blacks as well. And one of the funny jokes that we had in there, Richard Bogue walked in and he said to Mick, you're probably lying in the position where you scored one of your many tries at Athletic Park. And Mick, in his usual way, told Richard what he thought about that comment indeed. So rest in peace, Mick Bremner. Hopefully the audio that I've got and the recording of you, we can hopefully release for a Wellington Rugby project within the next few months. Let's get to our Huddy Hui for tonight, episode 172. He's been a regular follower of the Huddy Hui over the years, and he's one of the top age group coaches here in the Wellington region. He's had great success not only with the under-16s and under-18 Wellington programs, but he's also had a successful stint coaching at St. Pat's Silverstream, involved with many of the titles that they have won over the years. John Herbert is our guest on the Huddy Hui tonight. Many thanks for coming on the show. How was the Wellington under-18 campaign this season? What were the learnings for you and the team?
Yeah, thanks, Brad. Nice to be here. Yeah, it was a very successful campaign. I guess if we shoot to the end, being back-to-back champions is always a satisfying result. But I think probably more than that, it's working with the players, developing the players, because they are the next generation of Wellington Lions. So that's kind of the message we put to the boys, that we are preparing them for that next level, and that's where we'd like them to aspire to. The campaign, solid, nice, good co-coaches with me this year: Johnny Swalger, Phil Cartney, and Tony King, and ably supported by Westy, our manager. So good crew to start off with. Good support from the Centurions Club and Wellington Rugby. They were right behind us to help deliver the program. And there's a wealth of riches out there in Wellington College Rugby. So it's more you worry about the boys you left out rather than sometimes than the boys you select. And you can see that the quality that the Samoan team and the Māori team had as well. So good bunch of lads. Ironically, some of the boys I've coached now, I've coached the longest, have been two Wellington College players, Archie Sims and Charisma Faitala. It's my fourth year coaching them. So it's nice to keep those connections going, even with boys outside of stream. So, yeah, good campaign, good win over Samoans. Poverty Bay was a pretty scrappy match, but had a good one there. Tight win over Hawke's Bay. I think we probably squandered a few points, and I think we might have started believing our own press a little bit for a while, so we had to get back to basics and grind that one out. And then to cap it off, a nice victory against Waikato Saracens up there at Taupo. And yeah, lots of good play, lots of player development, and we managed to give gameplay to 30 boys, which is great for their future development.
Last week we had Harvey O'Rourke on from Napier Boys, who was part of the Hawke's Bay under-18 team. He said that they probably left the result out there for them. Would you say that's a fair assessment, or did your team just do enough to get over the line against Hawke's Bay?
Well, I'm not sure if I quite agree with Harvey there. I thought we probably left, 10, 15 points out there. There were some opportunities where we should have scored, which we either made a poor decision or we just couldn't quite execute it at the last moment. So, I think we look at the game through our own glasses, and perhaps my glasses are different to Harvey's.
Exactly. So let's, given your background coaching at St. Pat's Silverstream and the Wellington under-18s and the under-16s, how does your approach differ when working with secondary school players compared to regional representative age grade teams?
I think overall it doesn't change a whole lot. At the end of the day, you're still coaching 16, 17, 18-year-old boys, and the same principles you'd apply at a school level apply at rep rugby as well. I think the big thing you've got a condensed time frame. So you've probably got to start with a lot more intensity. You don't have quite the same amount of time to develop programs and processes. So you've sort of got to hit the ground running with these guys. Get your defensive plan in place, get your attack plan in place, and you don't have time for a million variations. So you've got to get a couple of solid plays going, and then work really hard, I think, from there on, just making sure that they understand that, hey, if we're here in this situation, this is what we do.
The under-16 program you said you've been involved in for the last 3 years, and you've had great success with that program. Who are some of the players that went through the under-16 program with you that have gone on to higher honours?
Let me see. Probably had Tommy Tukapua, Drew Berg-McLean, Jericho Forrihinger. Jericho was in my opposition gold team, and then we've had guys like a lot of them have gone on to the under-18 program, but I can't quite remember who's gone on to future higher honours, because we also had that under-16 year where there was no program, and a lot of those guys are now playing rugby. But a lot of those guys I've coached have ended up playing club rugby, successful club rugby, and filling the ranks there. Guys like Preston Moananu, Ben Kershaw, a myriad of other players, Senio Sandali, Toby Mellon. Lots of boys from that sort of age group have gone through. And I think one of the big challenges we have is making sure that whoever leaves school, they do go to club rugby. We don't want that drop off. And I think that's something that I think our under-16, under-18 and our stream program put focus on.
Yeah, that's a question I'm going to come back to you later, John, about the transition from college rugby to club rugby. But let's talk about yourself as a coach. What is your main area of coaching in rugby?
At Stream, I look after set piece and defence. I've taken on scrum. I took on scrum a few years ago, actually, at the request of Tim Mannix. And although, as you can probably tell from my build, I'm not a prop, but I do have good ears, and I listen to the likes of Pete Cowan and Eugene Smith and whoever else is willing to share their knowledge, and I take what they given and put it into place. And actually working this year in Centurions 18s with Johnny Swolger, he had some approaches I hadn't seen before, so his tips and tricks will be added to my toolbox as well.
The scrums you've had over the years at Silverstream have been dominant. What gets you excited about coaching that area of the game?
Rugby at its base is a physical game, right? It's a game of power and collisions, and I think that if you can dominate an opposition scrum, you've got a one up on them. You've got that one little step up above, or in the physical battle, I suppose is the easiest way to put it. And if you've got a team that's dreading having a scrum because they know we're going to go backwards, that's a mental battle you're winning. And the more little mental battles you can win in a game, the more successful you're likely to be at the end of the day.
Being a former rugby referee myself, there's one sort of rule in the top grades of first 15 rugby at scrum time. I sort of feel that maybe they could make an exemption for it, and that's that domestic safety law about the 1.5 metre push. What's your thoughts on that ruling at scrum time? Because I feel it sort of, if you're the dominant scrum at first 15 level, it sort of disadvantages you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a world rugby law, so it's not one that I think is going to change anytime soon. But yeah, personally, I'd be happy to have it, like a 5 metre push or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it disincentivises scrummaging a bit. We got told a few years ago when we had a very dominant scrum by a certain person in Wellington rugby that we needed to depower because it was dangerous. And I couldn't believe we were having the meeting, to be honest. But it happened. And so I guess after that, didn't put quite as much emphasis on our scrum because we couldn't get the reward for it.
Now, previously, you've been a player in the past. Where did you start your footy career as a junior?
Napier Marist.
Napier Marist. And what position did you play? In particular, at college level, what college did you go to?
St John's in Hastings. So I'm a left footer from way back, and I played lock. After that, through university and stuff like that, I had the odd foray into the loose forwards, but I was happy as a lock. I started off as a middle of the line out jumper and then moved to the front. And I think I was a tradesman, to be fair. I played it for a few age group rep sides and stuff like that. But loved the game and really admired some of the really talented players I played against.
How did you get involved in coaching, and where did it begin for you?
Did a little coaching when I was at university, and then I did a little bit when I was playing in Wellington here. I ended up playing social rugby for the OBU Teddy Bears. That was some fun days, and I did a little bit of. I was captain of the team there, and I did a bit of coaching with a few of the junior teams there. But when my nephew came to live with me, we got him into stream, and I said to Warwick Bowden, I said, "Look, do you need another coach?" And he went, "Oh yeah, maybe." And from there on, it was I was hooked. I was in.
And who was that one coach that inspired you to look at coaching as a career?
Ironically, it was a coach I had back in club days this will sound terrible, but I think he was a really bad coach. And I thought in later years, if I'd only known a little bit more, if he'd only given me a bit more of this or something else, I could have been a better player. And, and I'm not laying the blame on the man, but he sort of inspired me. If I was going to be a coach, I could do things a whole lot better. And to keep his name intact, we won't mention him, but that was part of it. Was actually poor coaching I had for a while that inspired me to try and be a better coach.
And when did you realise that you could take coaching quite far?
Oh, I've been coaching for a couple of years at Stream, and we'd had back-to-back championships in the lower grades, and then I got second 15, and we sort of went back to back 3 years in a row. And I thought at that stage I got the invite to coach first 15 with Tim Mannix, and about that stage I thought I might be able to do something a bit more from there.
And you mentioned your involvement with Silverstream. What was the first team that you coached there, and what were the learnings for you from that first year coaching at Stream?
The first year I coached the mighty under 65s, and I think my learnings from there was I was taking it pretty seriously, and I forgot one of the golden rules for coaching is if it's not fun, the boys won't be engaged. So I actually had to dial things back a bit and just remember that all the boys had their own motivation for being there. Some just wanted to play with their mates. Some wanted to have fun. Some were taking it seriously. But at the end of the day, if it's not fun and the boys aren't enjoying it, then you haven't created the right environment.
You've already mentioned that Tim Mannix is the one that got you involved with the first 15. Did you have any hesitations about getting involved coaching the first 15?
Oh, I think we always have a bit of self-doubt, wondering if we're going to be up to the task or not. And that first year was a real big learning curve. It was a little bit of a tough environment, being the new boy. And I probably struggled in a few areas there. I probably did some good stuff and some not so good stuff. But I think if one thing I learned about it is that you've got to keep learning, you've got to keep challenging yourself, and if you have a bad time or you feel you're not delivering the right stuff, you've got to go back and reassess it and work out what the good stuff is. So that was probably it was a year of probably understanding who I was as a coach and what I needed to do to become a better coach.
And what year was that when you joined the first 15?
2019.
Now, this year, actually last year, you were the head coach alongside Cole Davis, and this year you decided to do a switcheroo with Cole becoming the head coach. How do you find the responsibility of one being a head coach, and what is different to coaching first 15 rugby to other college grades?
Sure. I think the responsibilities of a head coach is you're as much an organizer as you are a coach. And if you can surround yourself with other good coaches, then you've just got to learn to hand over that area to them and let them deliver. But I think part of that is make sure you're all aligned before you even start. So if you've got clarity on what it is you're trying to achieve, where you want to go, then it's much easier, I think, as a coaching group to deliver the right stuff. And I think the lower grades, even the lower grades at Stream can be pretty serious. The second 15, for instance, they were more serious in some regards than some of the first 15s I've coached, a couple of the teams. And I think in our first year in 2016, we lost a lot of players to the first 15 through injury. So we had under 15 players and under 80 players playing for us, and we were doing it pretty tough. And I think halfway through the season, I think we had to win every game to make the playoffs just, and we did that and had some pretty tight matches, and then we did get to the playoffs as the lowest qualifier, but went through to win the grade. And I think the learnings there is that when the boys realise it's serious, they'll take it seriously.
I had a question from Carl this morning. He wants to know what your Avengers name is.
Yeah. So I'm Captain America, and Carl is Iron Man.
Oh, yes.
And that all came from our 2023 under 16 team. We decided to theme it up a bit and use the Avengers as our theme, and each coach took an Avengers name, and then we themed up our trainings around that. So, for instance, we had Siu Ane, who's a Petone Prem Reserve coach, top man. He was the Hulk, and he was all about strength and power. So when we wanted to do work on our strength and power, we referenced that to the Hulk, and then we had Iron Man. He was fast and clever, so that was Carl. And when we wanted to talk about our game sense and how smart we were and how fast we needed to be, then we referenced Iron Man. So yeah, it was a good setup. I think we got really good buy-in, and I was inspired to do that after listening to a session by Tamati Ellison when I did my level 3s, and he talked about the power of theming and the way they did it at the Crusaders, and I thought, yeah, this guy's onto something.
You've been involved in several Wellington titles of the first 15 at Silverstream. What one rates as your favourite and why?
Oh, Crikey, Brad, you're putting me on the spot there. As soon as I say that, there'll be a whole lot of boys will be pissed off with me. I probably have to say 2022, not because it was any less exciting or the quality of the players was anything less, but we went through and played that Hurricanes final against
that might be one of the angry players.
Against Napier Boys High and Palmerston North. Yeah, no, that's my wife not getting the dogs under control. That game against Napier Boys and Palmerston North, that was a mad game, eh? We so close but so far.
Exactly right. Actually, indeed.
And just on that, draws have been a bit of a bugbear for me. We had that draw in 2021 against Scots at the stadium, and then drew this year against Hastings Boys in the semi-final. And we drew against Napier Boys in the Hurricanes final.
Yes, that's right. Oh, Jesus. Hopefully next year they might be able to break that duck, hopefully. What players have you coached at the Silverstream First 15 that impressed you the most?
Oh, well, there's a bit of a list. I got to start with guys like Peter Larkai and Riley Higgins. Riley's the consummate professional athlete. Peter's a quiet, humble guy who just gets on with it and really gets the job done. I mean, he's at college he was the king of the post-contact meters, and he was just such a reliable defender. Rocco Berry, crikey, wasn't much he couldn't do. TJ Clark, one of my personal favourites was Akira Iramia. I mean, he's got really good success now. He probably just took a few years to get to where he wanted to be, but as a college player, he was so skillful. Crikey. It's the boys I leave out now who are going to be giving me a hard time for not giving them a shout out. But crikey, you got your Tommy Tukapuas, Drew Berg McLean's, Jericho Forryhingers, Elijah Solomona, Toby Crosby, Toby Mellon, Senio Sanelli, and another guy who's an absolute workhorse is Connor Tuifau.
Yes, yeah. No, exactly. And mentioned about Akira Iramia, he was named as the Lions Player of the Year, so that just taken a few years for him to get to that recognition that he deserves. What was one of the most valuable lessons you learnt, or particularly an influential moment during your time coaching at Silverstream?
I think probably two. First was our 2016 second 15 side, just how resilient players can be if you create the right environment and you keep inspiring them. We could have easily been knocked out and been nowhere in that campaign, but the boys were so resilient and just kept working and working, and we all fed off each other's energy. And it would have been easy to drop our lips after a couple of hidings, but we got there. And I think 2022, after we lost to St. Pat's Town in the mud at St. Pat's, we went in there, and I think we were overconfident. I think we were just a little bit cocky and believed our own press a bit too much, and we got shown, we got taught a lesson, and being able to come back in the final and rectify that was very satisfying. I think sometimes to get high you've got to go low.
How does a player's academics play a role in the privilege of playing for the first 15? Because you as a coach, you're not a teacher, but how do you ensure that the players get to play for the first 15 and keep their academics up to scratch?
Yeah, so if the boys aren't achieving at school and academically or behaviourally, they don't get to play rugby. That's the short answer. But before we get to that, we get feedback from the school, and we say, hey, such and such is he's only getting one each week at the moment. He's coming to school late. His homework's not done on time, and we as coaches will have a word to him and say, hey, is there anything we can do? What's going on? And then other players will often help them, give them some encouragement as well. So we try and work with the school to get them up to speed. But look, at the end of the day, they are student athletes with the emphasis on student.
What is the single most important skill or characteristic you try to install in a young player before they move into senior rugby?
Probably work ethic.
Yeah.
If a boy's prepared to work hard, it's amazing what they can achieve. And I've seen some amazing turnarounds from boys. Preston Moananu is a good example. In 2023, he was shuffling along in the third 15. He was doing all right, to be fair. He showed a spark, and so I selected him for my under-16 team. And he was coming off the bench for me in the under-16s, and then he kept working harder and harder and harder. He realised something was going on there, and then he got starts at the end of our campaign. And then he had a great off-season, worked really hard on his fitness and strength, came back and had an awesome season of first 15 rugby. And, it was a pretty big turnaround from where he was the year before. And then in 2025, he's gone through and played Premier Rugby. So he did a lot of that on work ethic. He had his challenges along the way, but what got him there was his hard work. So I think if a player's prepared to work hard, we can turn them. We can work on their attack. We can work on their defence. We can work on their skill set. But if they don't have work ethic, then we can't really do much about that.
In 2023, you had a change of scenery and took on a new saddle where you were part of the Petone Colts program. How did you find club rugby coaching, and how did it differ to coaching college rugby?
It's quite different, to be fair. You've got we had a pretty solid team at Petone. We were coming second in the round robin after a narrow loss to Huddy Hui Marist. But I think the big thing is that you've got young men who have got jobs now. Some of my boys had kids and girlfriends and stuff like that. And rugby's not for all of them. It's not their priority. It's something they want to do. But if you compare that to college, the good thing about coaching college rugby, especially at Stream, is the boys are fully invested. You're not going to make first 15 at Stream unless you're fully invested in the program. But at college, it's you might have a training session at Petone. There might only be 11 players turn up or something like that. So you just got to make do. Where at Stream, you've always got a decent number to train with. So that's probably the biggest thing. The effort was still there. The desire to play and so on, but it's probably you've got a really invested group of young men when you coach college, and it gets a bit tougher when you go to club.
Yep. We mentioned about beforehand about the transition from college to club. Particularly this year, the Wellington Colts grade was a mess. About 3 teams pulled out after the first round. What can be done to fix the issues at Colts level? Does it start at college rugby?
Yeah, there's a few things in that space. I think a lot of the boys, really the top performers, don't want to play Colts. They want to go straight into Premier Rugby.
Yeah.
So I think that, I know Otago Rugby has a rule that when you leave school, you've got to play Colts Rugby straight away. And, you can play 1 or 2 games for the Prems, or you can have an exemption if you're someone special, but otherwise you've got to go into Colts Rugby. I'd like that rule in Wellington, to be fair. And I think the clubs are doing well. If you look at Rams, for instance, they work really hard. Whatever Dion's doing there, he's doing pretty well because they've got they had a huge contingent of players wanting to play Colts there. So I think the usual things that make rugby fun are there. It's got to be fun, and you've got to allow boys to achieve. It's got to be safe, and they've got to feel like they belong. So all those things are important. And I think the other thing is that training at night on cold, wet fields is a bit of a come down for some boys who are used to training in the afternoon when it's not as cold, maybe not as wet. So
exactly right.
Good training facilities, I think, make a difference.
Exactly. Over your time coaching in Wellington, how have you seen the style of rugby change?
I think when I first started coaching, there was a huge emphasis on playing coast-to-coast rugby. I want to play super fast rugby, go edge to edge. And while I think there is still a desire to play that style of rugby, we're looking now at a more physical game. I think more physicality is coming into the game. I talked to Tim, and he selected a couple of teams over the years that were a bit light but very fast and had success. But these days, you probably could still do it that way. I look at a team like Hibs, who are very fast, very fit, very skillful, but where they probably come undone a little bit is they don't quite have enough big bodies up front. And if you look at how tries are scored in college rugby, there's a lot that are scored through flashy wing moves, but there's also a hell of a lot that are scored by pick and goes close to the try line. So I think having physicality in your forward packs probably becoming a bit of an emerging trend.
In your coaching career, what is one of the biggest coaching challenges you have faced during your time coaching, and how did you overcome it?
Good question, Brad. I think probably my first year coaching first 15 rugby was a challenge. We had some, we had our personalities in that coaching group didn't always gel, and trying to keep that separate from what you're trying to deliver is really important. And I didn't feel that great at the end of that season, to be fair. I felt I could have done better too. And I was probably at that stage ready to just quit. And I actually did. I said, Tim, thanks for the opportunity, but I don't think this is for me. And then I got a call in 2020 from Warwick Bowden, and he said, look, would you come back and coach the seconds, please? And I said, oh, look, I'm having a break, mate. And anyway, I went down and watched a pre-season game, and I thought, yeah, right, I'm back in again. And so what I did there, I just sought some advice from some people I respected, Chris Sterling and Aaron Jones too. And they just said, hey, look, you've just got to rise above this, focus on what you can do, and just don't let the whatever happened in the environment affect you. So yeah, and it worked. And they gave me other tips and tricks as well to be a better coach. And from there, 2021, Tim invited me back and said, hey, look, we need you back. And in fact, in the end of 2020, he said, look, can you start working with our props on scrummaging? We've got this guy called Saneo Sarnelli, and he's got tons of promise, but he's probably struggling a bit. So we did a whole lot of scrum sessions. We call them grunt up front sessions. And and then of course we saw what happened in 2021 with our scrum.
Exactly right. Coaching high-achieving young men often involves a lot of off-field guidance. What role do you feel as a coach plays in that development of them as a player and an individual?
I think you've got to be a sounding board for them. Realise that as young men they'll have highs and lows. So you've just got to be relatable so that they can come and talk to you. And one of the big things I think we deal with is injury, and the guys want to play, and in some cases their parents really want them to play, but sometimes you've got to have that honest conversation and say, mate, you're not right.
Yep.
Take a week off, take 2 weeks off, and get right so you can come back. Those are often difficult conversations for the guys because they just really want to play. That's for some of them, especially some of the boys who might be doing gateway and are not actually hugely academically involved in the school. rugby's everything for them. So
Yeah.
sitting on the sideline for them is very difficult. So I think you just got to be there, be an ear for them to talk to, and just keep talking about the positives, and remind them that this is what the future can look like, and just get this stuff done first.
The transition from school for those players who want to go on to professional rugby can be extremely tough. What advice do you give players who are on the cusp of taking their rugby careers to the next level? Because we've seen the likes of Peter Larkhoi, who's now in the All Blacks.
Yeah, I come back to my favourite, which is work ethic. Be physically conditioned on the off season. So come into pre-season in the condition you need to be in to be successful. Make sure you've got all the noise in your life squared away. If you've got you're in a messy relationship or something like that, just try and work through that, or decide what's best for you so you can be successful. Make sure all the home environment's well. If you're working, make sure you've got an employer who understands that you have these other goals and aspirations as well. Just try and set yourself up for success by getting all the stuff that's external to rugby sorted out. I mean, that is easier said than done, but I've seen boys who've gone into working a job and they can't even play rugby, because the job's too hard, and if they can't get to practice, they're just dog tired. So that's a challenge. That's a real challenge.
Are there any other coaching mentors or figures whose philosophies have influenced your own coaching style?
Yeah, there are a few. Probably, I forget his name now. I'll remember it in a second. The guy who runs the Magic Factory. I'm terrible with names, I'm afraid. It'll come to me in a second. He's got some really interesting philosophies. And you watch the Hurricanes bought into his processes a couple of years ago, and you can see we do the same at Stream. So, for instance, we don't really run fitness sessions. We just play high-intensity games instead. So instead of making a boy run up and down a field in straight lines, I mean, it's not good for them mentally, and they get bored with that. But if you play really high-intensity games of modified touch games, and change the rules and things like that, then you're going to have much better results for getting the boys fit. Russell Earnshaw is the gentleman. And funnily enough, I was actually involved with New Zealand Rugby this year as a contributor to a coaching manual that they're building for coaching teenagers next year, and a lot of the stuff that they're working on is based on the philosophies of Russell Earnshaw. So, so I think that just doing things a bit differently, thinking outside the box, is a good way to try and achieve those types of goals.
What is your favourite aspect of being involved in Wellington Rugby? In my positions I've had, I think it's the development of players who are going to take the next step into wearing the getting the spider on their chest. I just love to see those boys get a chance for first of all Centurions men's, and then Wellington Lions, and watching guys like Riley and Peter and so on, get into the Hurricanes and then further. It's great. So I think for me, I just love how the boys develop and how they can go on to be great players. So that's probably where I feel my biggest contribution and enjoyment with being involved with Wellington Rugby is player development. What are your plans for 2026? Will we see you back with the Silver Stream First 15?
Yep. Without letting the cat out of the bag, possibly my last year. I've got twin daughters who are in their next year, will be their last year at school, and I've sort of persevered with college rugby so that I can have the evenings at home with my family. But in 2027, they're away, they'll finish school, they'll be doing their own things at university or whatever they choose to do. So I'll probably be keen to coach at night or whatever that might look like after the year.
Well, John, it's been fantastic having you on the Huddy Hui, and it's been great. The chats beforehand, before your games start as well, fantastic to have. But all the best for the off season, and we'll see you around in 2026.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. Really enjoyed the chat, and I'll see you on the side of the field, no doubt.
No doubt you will. That is John Herbert, the coach of the Silver Street First 15, alongside Cole Davis, and they've great success he's had with the rugby program at Silverstream over the years. Of course, here on Huddy Sports, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Mike Pinfold Plumbing and Drain Lane Limited, Louise Reddy of New Zealand Travel Brokers, Gavin Murphy and the team from Jen Hickton Funeral Directors, and Nathan Williams and co from EG Fresh Range Eggs, who are our sponsors here on Huddy Sports. And if you're willing to sponsor Huddy Sports, head over to huddysports.co.nz or email us at huddysportsnz@gmail.com, or find us on our socials, Facebook and Instagram, if you're willing to support us. Now, this Saturday is the Hurricane Sevens tournament out at Fielding High School up there in the Mandelwood 2. This Saturday, the 1st of November, so no doubt we'll get more details about that tournament and what that will look like, in particular being the Wellington schools. That was the Wellington Condor Sevens qualifiers were cancelled due to the weather on Monday. So it'll be interesting to see the selections, how that will work out for the Wellington teams going to the Condors in December up there in Tauranga. Now, next week, Thursday, the 6th of November, we've got episode 173 of the Huddy Hui. He was hoping to come on this week, but tonight he's actually celebrating his graduation from Hamilton Boys High School. I came across him at the Napier Boys Sevens up there at Napier Boys 2 weeks ago, and he's also been in the New Zealand Schoolboys as well. Great season for this young man. Ollie Gurin from Hamilton Boys High School will be our guest on the Huddy Hui next week. That is Thursday, the 6th of November at 7 p.m. So make sure you tune in for that one of the Huddy Hui next week as well. So that has been the Huddy Hui for tonight. Many thanks to John Herbert for coming on and talking about the coaching side of not only at college rugby, but also club rugby. Keep tuning in to Huddy Sports Monitor. You can like and subscribe to us on YouTube, and hopefully over the next few weeks we'll be able to release some of our new membership plans on YouTube as well. And as mentioned before, all the support and the sponsorship needed to keep what we do here on Huddy Sports free for all of you to watch as we close out 2025 over the next 2.5 months as we build into 2026. I'm Brad Hudson. Ciao for now.
It's the Huddy Hui. You can find Huddy Sports on Instagram and Facebook. And check out huddysports.co.nz.
Blocked drains, leaky pipes, don't let plumbing problems sideline your day. Call the team, Mike Pinfold Plumbing and Drain Lane Limited. Mike has been our sponsor since the very beginning. From quick fixes to full renovations, he's got the tools, the team and the know-how to get the job done right. First time, every time. Local, reliable and always on time. That's how Mike plays the game. Find Mike Pinfold at Pinfold Plumbing at extra.co.nz 027 430 4351. Mike Pinfold Plumbing and Drain Lane Limited. Also Google Mike Pinfold Plumbing and let the pros handle the flow.
Gavin Murphy here
And Cassie Murphy.
from G and Higton Funeral Directors.
Don't leave it up to someone else to tell your story. Do it now when you can enjoy being part of the conversation.
With a prepaid funeral, you can have music, readings and venue all chosen by you.
For your free funeral planning pack with everything you need to get started, go to our website at gnhigton.co.nz/pre-planning.
The Huddy Hui, Huddy Sports captivating sports show. The Huddy Hui covers Wellington club rugby as well as other sporting topics of debate. Tune in on YouTube during the rugby playing months as host Brad Hudson interviews rugby players and other sporting personalities across the Wellington region and the rest of New Zealand. Catch the Huddy Hui streaming on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and wherever good yarns are heard. The Huddy Hui live on Huddy Sports. Here at Huddy Sports, we love a good game plan. And when it comes to travel, our go-to is Louise Reddy from New Zealand Travel Brokers. Whether it's a sports tour, a family break, or that bucket list trip, she'll get you there stress-free with all the best deals around. She's local, she's experienced, and she backs the game like we do, and she's a great supporter of Huddy Sports. Look up Louise Reddy at louisereddy.nztravelbrokers.co.nz or email louise@louise.reddy@newzealandtravelbrokers.co.nz. Travel smart and travel like a pro. As here on Huddy Sports, we're always wanting to keep our content free on YouTube. So the idea of sponsors, we can promote you on live stream, our social media pages and our website. It's good to support the local community and helps keep Huddy Sport free for all to watch. So if you're interested to helping Huddy Sports, go to huddysports.co.nz or to our email address, huddysportsnz@gmail.com. Ciao for now.